right off the coast of Gaza, huge deposits of natural gas. It's up to $1 trillion worth of natural gas. And that's, I think, one of the hidden reasons why Israel went after Gaza the way it did. Israel is trying to get into a contract with the British Petroleum that Israel be the one that extracts the natural gas from the Gazan waters rather than the Palestinians. So you have a little bit of that in there. But essentially, I think Israel sees itself in a very simplistic way as kind of the hired gun for the United States. It'll do whatever the United States wants. So that if it's a matter of helping to bring military technology into the area, to fight. I mean, Israel's very involved with helping the United States plan the Iraq War, for example, which was over resources. Israel built in the Negev Desert a $65 million simulation of Iraqi urban neighborhoods and villages, rural villages, where American troops are trained before they went into Iraq. House demolitions is a policy that the American Army follows in Iraq, for example, that it took from Israel and so on. So that Israel does, I think, very important training for the United States. And what Israel also does is it takes American arms and it makes it more user-friendly for a lot of the countries that the United States is working with. So I would say that Israel is certainly an ally of the United States from that point of view. Israel's been the one that's been pushing the sanctions on Iran that have to do with, the Iranian nuclear weapons and so on. So it's like, and what's interesting is, we talk about the Arab-Israeli conflict, but in fact, Israel and the United States have very common foreign policy goals with the conservative Arab regimes, Egypt and Saudi Arabia, the Gulf states, and so on. So that I think that in fact there's it's very interesting. I'll just say one. The book Fahrenheit. What was it? The film by Michael Moore.
9/11.
Fahrenheit 9/11. There's a very interesting thing there where he shows the strong connection, personal even, between the Bin Laden family and the Bush family. And here's Bush the son, as president, who is the most pro-Israel president ever. I mean, Israel couldn't have invented a president better for Israel. Well, what's the third part of the triangle called? Hypotenuse or something? In other words, here you've got a very strong American-Saudi axis, or American, in general, oil, Arab axis, a very strong American-Israeli axis. Well, how does that work? I mean, why aren't the Arabs saying to Israel, why aren't the Arabs saying to the United States, if you're our good friend, do something about Israel? There's got to be, I think, an Israel-Arab piece that's missing, you see. And it really isn't an Arab-Israeli war, because Israel and the Arab states have very common foreign policy objectives. For example, they're all kind of worried about Iran. I mean, they're united on that. In terms of securing the oil resources for the West. I mean, there's a lot of, so in a sense, I think Israel is together with the Arab countries, part of this American-oriented coalition, and Israel tries very much then to hit Hezbollah, to hit Syria in different ways, to hit Iran, to hit any of these Al-Qaeda certainly. To hit any of these Arab or Muslim parties that are trying to undermine or change that American hegemony in the Middle East. So I think the United States, the so-called moderate regimes, and Israel are part of that whole hegemonic kind of relationship. So in a sense, if you look at it that way, Israel is really an ally of these conservative Arab regimes, rather than up here.
I wanted to respond to the young woman student that was asking about here in Hawaii. And Dan Inouye, the senior senator has received hundreds of thousands of dollars from AIPAC. We all know who AIPAC is, American Israeli Public Affairs Committee.
Somebody said he's known as a senator from Tel Aviv.
And does, in fact, AIPAC control all of our Congress to the point where us Americans, do we control anything at all? Because Israel attacked the USS Liberty during the 1967 war, preemptive strike on the Arab countries, and killed 34 of our people, wounded 174, and it just got all put under the rug, right? Now, if they can do that, how much control do we really have? A DJ right here at University of Hawaii was taken off the air. One of the professors told him that he was anti-Semitic. So, I mean, this goes on. We got Obama. He brings in the chief of staff. The first guy he brings in is Rahm Emanuel, who served in the Israeli military. His parents are Zionists. I mean, this thing goes on and on and on. How much control do we have?
Right. Well, look, you can't get, I mean, don't get nutty. Don't get conspiratorial. I mean, Israel plays a very important role. AIPAC's very important for all kinds of reasons. I mean, I wouldn't say that Israel certainly controls the United States. And, you know, you also can get into anti-Semitic waters when you get into there. You know, somehow there's this, the elders of Zion. I mean, Israel really does have an inordinate amount of influence. And again, you can ask the question, why? And I think the Jewish lobby is a part of it. I think the Christian fundamentalists are a part of it. But just to go back for 1 second to what I was supposed to be talking about today, and that is that I think the Pentagon is Israel's greatest lobbyist. Because again, you know, Israel plays such a key role in the American military, both the military and the industrial enterprise, from the point of view of testing American weapons, of helping Americans develop technologies. You know, the wall that's being built on the Mexican border is a wall built by Boeing and Elbit Systems, which is an Israeli system. Israel's very important in weapons development. Israel's very important as a way of, you know, I won't get into all the details, but for example, Americans love gadgets. So your weaponry is way too sophisticated. You know what? It's too sophisticated for American soldiers. But it's way too sophisticated for people, let's say, in the third world. So what Israel does, its specialty, is to take American planes, rifles, all kinds of American high-tech things, surveillance equipments, helicopters, and stripping them down. You know, making them user-friendly, but keeping their capabilities. So, for example, Israel's invented a helmet that, you know, Chinese pilots, Indian pilots, West African pilots, it's hard for them to fly F-16s. They're just too crazy in terms of all the systems that they have. So Israel's developed, for example, a helmet that the pilot puts on, and the simplified controls, what the pilot has to know, and what button to push and how to shoot is on the helmet. It's in the, you know, it's electronic, so you know it changes. But in other words, the pilot doesn't have to look at the control board. The pilot doesn't have to deal with all that stuff. The pilot has to do with the 4 or 5 things the pilot has to do at this moment is right there on the helmet in front. So Israel plays a really interesting role in terms of making American military equipment user-friendly in parts of the world where the soldiers don't have that sophistication. I mean, there's a lot of ripples to it. But I think you can explain Israeli influence that in those, from the point of view of the Jewish community, the Christian community, and the military. And you don't have to get into, you know, you don't have to go to the degree where Israel controls the United States. I mean, the United States is still the United States. But it's certain, I think there's interest in common. Now, one of the things that I think is happening, hopefully, is that common interest might be getting weaker in a sense. In other words, as the United States gets more entangled in the Muslim world and is really looking for a way out, which is what Obama's speech in Cairo was all about. and trying to accommodate with the Muslim world, this support of Israel is simply counterproductive for American interests. So it could be that there'll be a reshifting, maybe. And you know, you could see support for Israel during the Cold War, when Israel really supplied a lot of Soviet military technology to the United States. You could see the logic in the war on terror, Israel and all that. Today, except for this military aspect, it's very hard to see a compelling reason why the United States should be so committed to the to Israel versus, and it really is versus other parties. So maybe there'll be a reorientation, and that's one of the things that I'm trying to do, is to come and tell the American public about this stuff so that they'll go to their representatives.